So I was really excited for this movie, not only as a new Spike Lee joint, but as a Spike Lee joint that saw him working back in New York. But after seeing it, I don't really know about this one. Highest to Lowest is the newest movie directed, but notably not written, by Spike Lee. It's a remake slash English language version of Kurosawa's High and Low, which, full disclosure, I have not seen, so there won't be a comparison of the two movies for the sake of this review. This iteration stars Denzel Washington as aging record executive David King, who's gone back and forth over a business deal that would see him selling off his company, Stack and Hits Records. The story starts with him trying to wheel and deal his way back into being a majority owner and thus retaining control of his legacy, but the money he manages to get together soon becomes a bargaining chip for something much more dire. The movie makes things more complicated than they need to be, but basically a mystery kidnapper claims to have abducted David's teenage son, Trey, and will return him in exchange for the $17.5 million that David just raised. I say claims because it turns out that Trey is just fine, and in a case of unfortunate mistaken identity, his friend Kyle has been kidnapped instead. Kyle is also the son of David's chauffeur slash confidant Paul, played by Jeffrey Wright, which adds to the drama considerably. There's briefly some tension as to whether or not David is willing to pay for Paul's son's safety, but the movie does little to call David's morality or motivations into question aside from like 1.5 scenes of on-the-nose dialogue. Now, to not just repeat the plot beat for beat and get into the actual analysis, I'll add that A$AP Rocky plays the kidnapper who's determined to get something from David, be it money or attention. So the first chunk of Highest to Lowest focuses on the kidnapping snafu in a way that honestly feels like a Lifetime movie. Sorry, Spike. Since David and his wife Pam have just millions of dollars lying around, they're able to mobilize the police and get their story on the news almost immediately. Why then does it take hours upon hours for a perfectly okay Trey to reveal himself? Poorly outlined reasons. The film spends a lot of time operating on the level of a police procedural, with the detectives setting up camp in David's luxury Dumbo penthouse, and bizarrely the look of Highest to Lowest never really moves past that kind of flat, made-for-TV sheen. It's weird because the cinematographer is Matthew Libatique, who is more than capable of delivering visually arresting work, but for the first half and change of the film, things look painfully generic. The score sounds it too, and is frequently really discordant with what's happening on screen in a way that's incredibly distracting. Things thankfully pick up around the halfway point when David has to put the police's plans into action and orchestrate a handoff. The better section of the film kicks off with one of 2 subway chase sequences, and this is when it really starts to feel like a Spike Lee movie. This scene is also when it really feels like the film is embracing its New York City setting, with Denzel on the fore with some comically overzealous Yankee fans as a Puerto Rican pride event bustles below. While I do wish parts of this chase contained more internal logic and went further north than Yankee Stadium, embrace all those goddamn local stops, Spike. The whole sequence injects some much needed energy into the proceedings and allows the movie to escape from the stuffy and stunted drama it's tried to build. This chase and its aftermath inevitably culminates in a face-off between Denzel Washington and A$AP Rocky, which is genuinely pretty fantastic. Denzel isn't turning in a particularly revelatory performance here. David King is a character he's essentially played before, but he really kicks it into high gear as the confrontation morphs into a rap battle. His delivery is sharp and intense and funny, and while we all figure that A$AP Rocky can keep up with that kind of flow, he's able to really hold his own as an actor up against Denzel too. It's an invigorating and impressive scene of just dialogue, and it makes you wish the rest of the movie could have been the same. That scene really carries the film, which has a lot to nitpick at otherwise. There is a crazy amount of product placement, specifically luxury product placement, where a brand logo takes up a distracting amount of the frame for a distracting amount of time. As David's wife Pam, the actress Ilfenesh Hedera gets very little to do other than be called beautiful by other characters, and both she and the actor playing David's son, Aubrey Joseph, unfortunately turn in some pretty wooden performances. The same goes for several of the actors playing cops and detectives, which adds to the whole made-for-TV movie vibe that haunts a lot of Highest to Lowest. Ice Spice is perfectly fine in her one-scene cameo, and I was pleasantly surprised by Princess Nokia. In terms of what may be considered stunt casting for this movie, I think she and A$AP Rocky should really actually have a future on screen. There's also the matter of Highest to Lowest attempting to comment on social media, cancel culture, and what have you. I thought this summer's Eddington did a pretty lame job of this a few months ago, and this movie is just as bad. There are a handful of super poorly designed graphics and posts about events going on in the plot within the movie universe, and they also took me right out. There's something to be said about the attention economy and A$AP Rocky's character's role within it, but the film only bothers to engage with that in the last half hour or so. And then the actual last scene of the movie is so eye-rollingly hokey in a way that takes you out of the movie again. All that said, it's a disappointing addition to Spike Lee's filmography, especially after the likes of BlacKkKlansman and Da 5 Bloods. I think it's really obvious that Spike Lee isn't credited as a writer, and the movie probably suffered from that lack of involvement, because like I said before, a large chunk of this movie feels hopelessly generic and flat. There are thankfully a few scenes and sequences that really pop, but they don't do enough to save Highest to Lowest. With that, since it's such a shrug overall, I give it 2 out of 5 stars. Oh well.